So maybe you can start observing, how do you feel? How do you feel when you are reaching your ovulation? Feeling fatigue, running, 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 and then sometimes women connected that they've been too active. And right here, your body, because your body is an intelligent system, right? So your body doesn't care if you are planning a child this month or not. Your body every month is working for that. Now, when the ovulation happened, your system will continue thinking that you are going to fertilization, that you are going to get pregnant. Because of that, the body will increase or add two more hormones. So let's look at them. One is insulin that is produced in your pancreas. So pancreas is an organ that relates to both endocrine system and digestion. Any sugar in your body will be eventually transformed into energy. That's why sometimes we have cravings. But the insulin produced by pancreas will help to regulate that blood sugar from being too high or too low. So because you see it's written that sugar cannot go into most of your cells directly, it needs to go through a process, converted into that substance that can be taken by your cells. So sensitivity of insulin drops twice in the month. In other words, twice in a month, your insulin will not be able to read how much sugar you have. So the sensitivity drops, the guard is kind of falling asleep, and you're like, oh, I'm craving for sugar. So your body thinks like, we don't have enough of energy. Especially remember, after ovulation, you are feeling a little bit fatigued and a little bit low energy. So now you're feeling like, oh, I want to have sugar to restore my energy. But this is a trick. This is something really not so easy to regulate and really control yourself. But what happens if you go for that craving and actually indulge yourself into sugar? So this will cause imbalance in follicle stimulating hormone and luteinizing hormone. It will be difficult to develop a follicle, and estrogen and progesterone will be kind of confused, and that will stimulate for cortisol production. Remember, I will repeat it throughout the course. Cortisol is a stress hormone. So when you are eating sugar, what does it mean? How does it mean stress? So because sugar, too much sugar, cannot be converted. So for body, it's a stress. It has more than it can work with. And that's why the cortisol will be secreted right away. With a large consumption of sugar, insulin jumps and provokes a sharp decrease of energy. So this is a kind of loop reaction. If you're feeling low energy, you want more sugar, you eat that sugar, it goes really high, then it drops, the insulin really drops, and then you're like, oh, I want more. But this time, perhaps you're going to increase your dose of sugar or caffeine. All of this craving, if you will go and indulge yourself, will bring you to a very intense PMS. So this is where we are deciding after ovulation, what kind of PMS are you going to have? If you really want to have a smooth and gentle and a smooth transition into menstruation, you really need to control yourself about that sugar that you take. So it's easy to speak about it. It's not that easy for women to actually do it. And some women are really, really having hard times. They are really struggling every month. It's like an internal battle on a regular basis. So how to go through that and how to recover from this kind of addiction, insulin addiction, I will support you throughout this course, and we will find the way from different angles with different kind of remedies and support how to heal your indulgence and your PMS. The second hormone that is being released here is relaxin. So it has a very nice name, right? It has actually advantages and kind of disadvantages if you're not aware. So remember, your body right now thinks that you are going to have a baby. So for you to start kind of preparing your pelvis and also relaxing you so you can slow down. You know how actually pregnant women, they are a little bit slower, more calm, and they are living like in clouds. So this is actually one of the relaxing effects. So relaxin is produced by that emptied shell, the corpus luteum, after ovulation. What it does, it loosens your muscles and your ligaments and joints, especially in the pelvic area. So if we think that potentially you are going to become a mother, your pelvis already is preparing for that. So we actually say that pelvis relaxes because it will grow. Yeah. And if it's hard and stiff, it cannot expand. So it needs to start loosen up and become softer. It also will work to soften and lengthen the cervix of the uterus. So all of this means that if right now you are having kind of loose joints and muscles, you are at risk of having injury. It means that during this phase, you can become aware of your exercise, of the way you walk, of the way you are running. Make sure that you are moving with conscious. It doesn't mean you need to be afraid right now. You just need to be more stable and rooted in your legs, actually, and your feet. If you walk, you really put every foot firmly, and then you're holding your body, right? You are breathing and moving, not rushing anywhere. As we are now on the other side of your cycle, we are entering the yin phase. And the yin here is represented by progesterone, the second dominant hormone of your cycle. And this hormone gives you a sense of breast tenderness, bloating, water retention, sharp sense of smell, and both hemispheres are active. So let's drop into progesterone. I love this hormone so much. So it's very important, but it can also give an overwhelming experience. First of all, I want you to know that this is a yin hormone. So remember, we had yang and now we are in the yin. This is yin. It has a nurturing effects. It's a giver and it creates living environment. So in a way, it has some kind of motherly traits, right? So it takes care. Main function is to maintain healthy endometrium. Right now, as your body is thinking about fertilization and it's preparing the uterine lining, or we can say it's building up that little house that will welcome your baby inside. So by that, it maintains and nurtures the endometrium to make it really fruitful and nutrient. And then later, it will nourish and hold the pregnancy in case if woman gets pregnant until third or fourth month. And then progesterone will be produced by placenta. So first it is produced by corpus luteum. This I consider to be miracle inside of our bodies. The corpus luteum. What is that? Now it's time to really dive to this. After the ovary released the egg from follicle, the follicle will transform into corpus luteum. Corpus luteum is a temporary endocrine gland. I want you to take a moment and to realize this. There was a certain sac sitting inside of your ovary as old as you are, plus like 7-8 months. And now when it become emptied, what you would do if you had something like that, you would naturally get rid of it because you don't need it anymore, right? But your body doesn't have any waste. So guess what's happening? Within few hours, not even a whole day, within few hours, this sac will transform itself out of nothing, out of just tissues, into a whole temporary endocrine gland, into a new organ. Can you imagine that? That happens just within few hours. This endocrine gland will secrete new hormone, which is progesterone. So it will secrete it for a certain period of time, and then if there is a fertilization or there isn't in different timing, it will regress. Yeah, so it will break down and become just the part of inside of ovary. The health of your cycle is right here in this moment. The health of your cycle depends on the quality of your corpus luteum and your egg. The better follicles you are having, the better corpus luteum it will become, the more progesterone you will create. Progesterone, its main function is to maintain healthy endometrium. It means that that progesterone is so rich that it is actually making a very good endometrium. It is resistant to insulin, which causes you to have a sugar craving. That's why pregnant women also are, they love to indulge. The body in this moment is collecting and stores fat and water because it wants that fluidity. All this fluid is supporting the potential future pregnancy. So in this timing, you are kind of vulnerable, and also it feels as if you are gaining a little bit more weight, which is actually funny thing that throughout the cycle, woman has different weight. So you cannot trust your scale. You will always have -2 or +2 kilos. And this is totally fine. This is not a sign that you are actually becoming fat. Here you are retaining. So that water can be seen as a cellulitis in our skin. And this is like really true. I always admire this transition in my body. So when I'm working out, doing my practice in the follicular state, I see my skin and my muscles are really toned. And then after ovulation, they are becoming like wobbly and really loose. And it doesn't make me feel good. Before, I used to judge myself as if I'm not exercising enough. So I would push myself. But now I know that I cannot trust what I see. It's the surface that we are judging. But inside, this time is the most potent and the most important of all my cycle. This is actually a time when I need to love myself more because such drastic transformation is happening so deep in my body. Because progesterone holds that water, it prompts the breast to retain the fluids, and that causes the breast to stretch and to grow in size a little bit. As a positive effect, progesterone prevents breast cancer. It's a heart center, it's a mother center, it's a nurturing center, right? It boosts thyroid gland. So thyroid gland right here in your throat, it is related to your vocal chakra, so expression, how you feel and how you express. These two chakras are regulated during this yin hormone, motherly progesterone. It reduces the inflammation in the body, and it helps you to sleep better and rest, protects your heart, and calms your nervous system. So we can say that progesterone is your inner mother chemical who is really taking care of yourself. And you need to cooperate with that. You really need to be gentle with yourself. It calms your nervous system because it converts into a neurotransmitter called allopregnanolone. This word is so funny. I actually, it took me a time to say it correctly. Instead of saying the whole allopregnanolone, you can say allo. Yeah. So what does this do? This is a neuroactive hormone synthesized from progesterone and is released by adrenal glands. Adrenal glands that are sitting on top of your kidneys that are also releasing cortisol, the stress hormone, but in this case, this time they are producing allo to respond to stress and to soothe that stress. It's like your internal anesthetic effect, which is trying to guard your emotional state. Despite it feels like this part of the month is very raw, very triggering, very vulnerable, it is actually supporting you. It is the time when you are asked to become yin, to become soft, to become gentle with yourself. Then your further experience will be much more kind. Yeah. So if you want a kind PMS and menstruation, you need to invest. And this is where I always relate to karma. There is a karma that is working here. The way you're going to spend these days is going to affect your further days. Now, when your body started realizing, or better to say, your glands started realizing that the fertilization is not going to happen, it was kind of preparing for that. Now, when it realizes the truth, it will reduce all the production of necessary hormones for pregnancy. So what happens is that progesterone, estrogen starts decreasing. This causes the rise of prostaglandin. It is exactly that hormone from which we started our session today. So let's look deeper a little bit into this very important hormone. It will produce the symptoms of redness and swelling. To the swelling, you can perhaps refer, because this is exactly what women feel around after ovulation. So it feels like you have bigger belly, more cellulitis, perhaps. You remember the body is holding the water. Now, prostaglandin will even accommodate this by swelling the tissues inside. The shedding process, consider it as your internal kind of surgery. So the living tissues that grew now will detach or cut themselves and shed out from your body. And for this surgery to go in a smooth and kind way, prostaglandins will swell the tissues to make them softer. And also prostaglandin constricts the blood vessels, which causes contraction. So prostaglandins are very present during labor and before menstruation. This is actually two things are very similar in their nature. So labor of a child and labor of your endometrium is almost similar, but have different purpose and different maybe sensation. Yes, so the labor of a child is very strong one, and labor of your endometrium is not as strong, but you might still feel those kind of cramps. Now the symptoms, look at them. If there is an excessive volume of prostaglandins, there will be acne, anxiety, backache, bloating, cramps, cravings, headaches, joint pain, nervousness, fatigue, depression. Oh my God, all of these things. So what causes excess of prostaglandins? There you go. Unhealthy fats, carbs, sugar, the inflammatory food increases production of excess prostaglandins. This is the paradox of this phase. On one side, you are really craving for those carbs and sugar and inflammatory food. On the other side, you are asked not to eat that because you are at risk to overproduce the prostaglandins and have really strong, overwhelming experience. And that's why this phase is called virtue. So look what's happening. Right here, during ovulation, you were supported from inside by your body, which gave you all of this amazing boost of energy. Now, in this phase, in the opposition, you are not having them because when estrogen dropped, all those calcium, magnesium, iron, serotonin, endorphin, they are dropping. It's in a way that you are all by yourself, just the way you are. You are almost like naked, very vulnerable and very sensitive. And now it's time to really understand who you are. Beneath all of those layers of accommodating hormones, will you be able to preserve yourself the way you are? Will you be able to love yourself even if you have reactions and cravings and you in this phase you don't like your body, the way you look in the mirror? And I swear this happens a lot. I see myself like during ovulation, I look in the mirror and I'm like, oh, I'm so pretty, I'm feeling so good and I'm looking so good. In the phase of PMS, I look at myself and I'm like, well, there were days when I looked much better, really. But I know that this is now when I'm looking at the mirror, I understand that I'm not seeing the true me. Because all of this constant change does not define who I am beneath. Beneath, I am right now a virtue. I'm a virtuous woman who understands the chemical process in my body, but who stays really dedicated to hold the ground and being gentle to myself. Even when energy is zero, nervousness, anger, and sense of death. So let me add this here. In this phase, you will be triggered by the things that usually don't touch you. You will notice something that you usually don't notice, and you will feel like you don't like it. That's why, on one side, it is recommended for you to be active, but hold your ground more within yourself. So you are creating kind of a cocoon where you give yourself more time, more me time. And during this phase, immunity and temperature of the body goes down. In ancient China, Korea, and Japan, women used to practice steaming around these days, or going to sauna in our words. Because what happens is that if your body temperature right now decreases, the coldness or the dampness in your body will make the blood more rigid. So that creates during menstruation blood clots, right? When it's really not flowing. So in order to create that really nice flow, you need to warm up your blood. How do you do that? You really create that extra warmth around your body. Just start sensing that because you will really help to kind of melt your blood so it can flow. And because your immunity drops down, there are more risk of catching a cold or a flu or being more susceptible to a certain virus. I can tell you two reasons that mainly causing the colds and flus in myself and in clients that I observe. So first of all is when you are being too active around the second phase of your cycle. You are in the mode of do, again, doing, and talking and communicating so much that towards the end of the day, you're feeling so tired. And all you can do right now, it's only sleep. So when you push yourself to the limits and beyond, your immunity will drop. It's the body psychosomatic response that is saying, if you're not going to slow down, we will put you into bed in another way, in extreme way, which is a cold or a flu. You don't want that. And so many of my clients are experiencing colds and flus just around this phase. Now you can start tracking that. The second is not taking care of the body temperature. So let's say if it's winter and the sun is shining, you will perhaps not wear extra clothes and just go out. You might feel cold, but you will be okay with that. But what you think is not what your body is experiencing. The mind and the body can go completely separate directions. In this phase, you need to listen to your body, not to your mind, because the mind becomes restless and really reactive in this phase to everything. So you need to listen to the body's signals. And this is where you experience a full PMS or premenstrual syndrome. PMS became kind of a label for those women who are being overreactive or bitchy, I would say, yeah. So it's like almost insulting. So women don't like this. First of all, they don't like to be labeled like that. And second, they just don't enjoy their PMS. But PMS has completely different purpose. The overwhelmness of the PMS is the reason for unhealthy attitude towards your body and your cycle. But the real PMS is not just premenstrual syndrome. So we will study that deeper, but I want to tell you now that PMS time is like that little door that opens for you only for a few hours or maybe for a day. For every woman it's different, but this is a door of opportunities. During PMS time, I feel like I am here in this dimension and at the same time in some kind of another dimension. So my focus in the physical realm is really scattered. I can forget things. I can lose things. Like it's so uneasy for me to put things together in a normal society way. And because I'm not supposed to, during this phase, during PMS, I'm supposed to do something internally. What I can recommend you now at this point during this class is just be grounded during PMS. Start noticing things that you don't usually notice inside of yourself. Start perhaps discovering that there is a deep internal voice. Maybe you can start hearing what it says, perhaps writing down, journaling. So as you will progress through this course, you will know how to address it. And then as you are entering your menstruation, I want to stress out on the sense of death, what it means. The concept of menstruation as one has perfect two dualities happening inside of your body. On one side, you are releasing the living tissues, which means that they are dying. So this is internal death. On the other side, your shedding is a birth process. So you are birthing. So there is death and birth at the same time. Just like with a fetus that was 9 months living in heaven, for fetus, the process of labor is actually death. That's why birthing is a shock, is the first shock that we receive as human beings. Our heaven life is over. We are going through pain, constriction, and suppression in order to go out. And it feels like that's it, because what is there is unknown. Inside of your body, the same is happening. There is no fetus or a child, but there is you. You are going through death of your certain aspect, and you are birthing your certain aspect. For this reason, menstruation is called epiphany. It's only woman's capacity to actually face death, not mentally, but sense and understand through the body. During this phase, you are completely opened to that unknown. And that's why women, even by science, the level of fear and level of dealing pain throughout the body is much higher than men's, because we, through many years, we are literally building relationship with death. We know what it is on a cellular level. And then it starts all over again. So if you look at this map, you can say that, oh my God, there are so many changes happening throughout the months. You are completely new in a different phases of your cycle. But if you look at that, that change is a constant. So the changes in details happening, but that cycle reoccurring is constant. So this is what another thing that woman has in herself, the duality of change and being constant. When you understand your rhythm and you address that through your body, not through your mind, you can really reprogram yourself, or maybe more correctly to say, you can become your real self and establish that amazing relationship with the society. So this is it. This class was really deep and full of so many terms, perhaps a little bit overwhelming for your mind, but you have that opportunity to watch it again. And I'm also providing you with this printed version of the map, of this map, which are two sides of the same map. So on one side, you will see the whole cycle. On the other side, I'm including the meaning of every hormone. You can go ahead and print it out and have it on your wall maybe. And now what I want us to do is, in order to allow all this information to settle, the best way is to see how does such woman look like throughout the month. So this little video that I'm going to show you was designed by Glamour magazine, which is kind of advertising and promoting, but is really good way to relate to everything that we have just covered. So enjoy your watch, and I will see you in the next class. Thank you.